Today is the 32nd Sunday of the year. Our Gospel is Luke chapter 20, verses 27 through 38. The story of an encounter with the Sadducees. Now, this is the only time in the Gospel of Luke that the Sadducees are mentioned. He mentions them again in Acts, but this is the only time in the Gospel. However, it is a very fractious moment, a moment of confrontation, normally reserved to the scribes and or the Pharisees. But it comes in Luke's Gospel at the end of the travel narrative. The journey to Jerusalem has completed. Jesus is now in Jerusalem. He's told us in chapter 13, Jerusalem, it is the place that kills the prophets, stones those who are sent to it. This part of Luke's Gospel has a number of these fractious encounters. Father William Lynch, S.J., has a marvelous reflection on what he calls absolutizing instinct. It's helpful here. Lynch points out that the absolutizing instinct is a very simple concept, but its outcomes or its consequences are complex and too often, very, very destructive. So what is the absolutizing instinct? It's our inclination, all of us as human beings have it, to invest relative things with an absolute force or value. That's an idea or an opinion or an expectation or a person or a job or a place can take on an absolute force or value. Now, it's good to bear in mind that we, the absolutizer, are the problem here, not the thing. So if I invest an opinion with absolute value, it's an issue with me. It's a process matter rather than a content matter. We don't have to engage in it. We don't have to invest anything with an absolute value except God. And we don't know God. I am who I am. Lynch says the absolutizing instinct is the enemy of the human and the enemy of hope. It kills the human spirit, in other words, prevents development. He goes on, everything under the absolutizing instinct assumes a greater weight than it has and becomes a greater burden. The absolutizing instinct is the father of the hopeless and adds that special feeling of weight that hopelessness attaches to everything it touches. It is in general the creator of hopeless projects and of idols. Clearly, it's not the stuff of healthy, creative, innovative, life-giving collaboration and participation. Sadly, it's the kind of thing that can actually bind some people together, people who share this eagerness to invest something. For example, I think it's happened in the United States with the gun laws. It's taken on an absolute value. It doesn't have that. It's invested with that. We can be different. We can hold convictions, strong opinions, but we can do so with respect and care and an openness to learning. Now, by way of an aside, there is room here for, well, there's no room for, but in fact, it sometimes happens that the passive-aggressive can slip in here. We can pretend to be detached about this opinion or that belief, and we can appear to be gentle, but it's a sweet fascism. It's a steel fist in a velvet glove, and that's not what is required. That is a submerged or suppressed absolutization. In this passage where Jesus has this fractious encounter with the Sadducees, it is the Sadducees who are doing the absolutizing. They've absolutized their belief about the resurrection. Their attitude, in order to maintain their absolute certitude, is mocking. It's disrespectful. They are not open to learn. Jesus doesn't mock in return. He doesn't become disrespectful. He puts an alternative belief forward. The reasons for it, they can believe it or not. They can take it or leave it. There's no attempt to manipulate, and there's certainly no passive-aggressive behavior in Jesus. He's open to learning, but he also stands firm. You'd have to ask, what is it that drives the absolutizing instinct to take the forms it does? And all of us probably have been guilty of it some time or another, even just a hint or a suggestion of it. I wonder about anxiety, insecurity, so that if we don't have the answers, we therefore feel uncomfortable, threatened, unstable. I would suggest that grace, the abandonment to grace, the grace of the present moment, providence, God guiding us, calling us, leading us, that is where we should invest our focus, not on having the answers, although that we seek knowledge. We seek to understand. We hold on to convictions and principles. We do so with a certain graciousness because our lives are graced. We experience all that is good, all that we desire, coming from the hand of God, not from our own mastery or conquests.